Well, we now have that discussion I've been promising you with John Gethin, the General Manager of Brookside. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you, Edith. Thank you for having us again.
And we'll kick off this conversation with the new strategies that I know the company is looking at. Perhaps we should begin there. What are you aiming for?
I think one of the key things that we are doing right now is actually taking services closer to the farmer. So what we have out there right now is a huge array of cooling plants that have actually literally put the cooling facilities at the doorsteps of the farmers. In addition, the door-to-door collection to the farmer from literally his doorstep, that continues. And at the same time, we are also looking at training. The farmers out there are thirsty for knowledge, and we are doing everything we can to impart as much knowledge that we can, just using our day-to-day contact with them. And by having all these facilities located out there means that Brookside is available for these farmers to speak to.
All right. Before we go into all those other aspects you've said of door-to-door collection, you've really emphasized on training. You've said training 3 times. Why is it so important in your market?
One of the things that is really weighing down the production of milk in this country is feeding. The animals just don't get enough to eat. So we are trying to do everything within our power just to pass on that message, to get the farmer to conserve feed. As you will remember, Edith, at the beginning of this year, we had a huge frost, a frost that covered huge parts of land all over the country. If the farmers had conserved feed and had a bale of hay here and there, a silo of silage, then the milk reduction that we went through at the beginning of the year would not have been so. So in order to avoid this, and the message that we're really trying to preach to the farmers is that we know there's a dry season coming, we know there's a wet season. Please plan accordingly. Please ensure that you have enough food in stock. Make all the preparations you need to do as you get into the rainy season, like they're just getting into right now. Make sure you plant adequately and fertilize your fields in time so that you can cut, conserve, and have a bit of chakula ready for the farmers, ready for the cows when the dry season hits.
All right. Speaking of the wet season, there are experts who are warning that we might see the Rift Valley fever come up again, and already there are cases being reported in northeastern Kenya of anthrax. Do you think this will affect production of milk countrywide and indeed for Brookside? Yes.
Rift Valley fever, and as we call it, RVF, is a killer when it comes to milk production. We are in regular touch with the Director of Veterinary Service Office, and anytime we notice a spot of disease in any part of our collection areas, we immediately inform them so that he can then dispatch his officers to actually contain the situation.
Right.
But at the same time, we are also trying to encourage the farmers to vaccinate. Please don't wait for the disease to hit you. Vaccinate. Prevention is always better than cure.
All right. And I know you deal with about 700,000 liters of milk in a day. I mean, that's a lot. When such illnesses strike, just to give us, to put this into perspective, how many liters do you go down to, if at all?
Put it this way, if a cow is producing, say, 15 kilos of milk in a day, if they do get affected by RVF, you can easily see that milk production go down to 7. So if that was to happen at the same time right across the country, you could easily see our milk supply go down to 350,000.
That's half?
Yes, half.
All right. Moving the conversation along, the procurement activities which you have. I know you have a system where you contract farmers, but we'll get to that later. But a lot of your milk is gone from the rural areas, correct?
That's right.
In your new strategy, do you intend to expand this or keep it as is?
The main supply of milk to our company is from smallholders. So what we are doing is putting out more and more cooling stations to the areas that still do not have. For instance, we're just about to set up a cooling center in Kajiado, right? And this will see us now get closer to an area that has never before had a milk cooling facility in their vicinity before. Yes.
And because you're obviously the market leaders in this, who do you, or what is your ambition? So you have all these cooling plants around the country, and then what?
Our mission statement states that we want to be the leading dairy in this region and in the continent at large. We want Kenya to be a nation that can supply the entire continent with adequate milk. Edith, as you will probably know, we are surrounded by milk deficit countries in this area. Kenya, for instance, is probably the first now, but maybe a very close second to South Africa in terms of milk supply. So Kenya and Brookside have the real opportunity right now to spread the white gold, as I say, spread the white gold all over the continent. Okay,
and speaking of spreading the white gold, you are saying that you're going to have cooling plants across the country, hopefully. Yes. And you do have this system where you contract farmers, and you were the first dairy farm to do this. Why is it so vital?
I think the farmers' one of their biggest fears, other than prices, is where to take their milk. You will remember that during the 2010 milk glut,
we all saw the pictures, we're all horrified by them.
We want to tell every farmer that wants to supply milk to us that they must sign up. That gives them the commitment that the company will be there to take all their milk. In fact, the way the system works is the farmer informs us how much milk they're going to supply. Mm-hmm. Then it is up to them to ensure that they operate within the levels that they themselves will have put. And we as a company will then assure them that they will always have a market for their milk. And that should really give our farmers comfortable nights of sleep.
All right, but is it possible to absorb all the farmers into dairies, to have them registered, to bring their milk there? Or are you going to have some left out? And what do they do with their milk?
Yes, unfortunately, as things stand right now, Brookside as a company may not be in a position to process 100% of all the milk that's produced in the country. We simply just don't have the infrastructure. But what we are geared up to do, what we are geared up in doing, is ensuring that those farmers who have been with us, those farmers that have been with us throughout the years, we give them the first opportunity in terms of supply, in terms of contracting with us. And if we have a little bit more room, we actually invite more. Edith, for instance, we are setting up this our milk powder plant, which will see us easily double our milk collection facilities and milk processing facilities. So this in itself is going to open the doors to a huge number of farmers that aren't already there. So pole pole, and maybe in another few years' time, you will see us expanding our powder plant. So slowly, we are taking more and more farmers. 145,000 farmers is not a small number.
145,000.
Yes.
And despite this, I'm sure there are farmers out there who are thinking, okay, I really don't want to be bogged down or tied down to an institution. I'd rather do my own thing. I get my money really quickly, I put it in, and I do what I want to do with it. What would you say to them?
I don't think that our Vision 2030 will be built around such farmers. Our Vision 2030 is going to be achieved by order, ensuring that there's order in the market. And the only way really that you can get order in the market is by associating, is by getting contracts with companies like us in Brookside, where you're assured, and you can then plan. You can then plan very well in terms of where to take your produce. It's actually a very unique system, Edith, because you don't have that in farmers who produce cabbages. You don't have that with farmers that produce potatoes, farmers that produce coffee, farmers that produce tea. Yes, you don't have contracts. So this is really a unique arrangement as far as the agriculture of this nation is concerned. And really, the modern agricultural nations in the world today have been built by order, creating order and maintaining order.
Okay, and as we wind up, where do you see yourself based on these new strategies that you're putting in place in, say, the next 5 years? Because as it stands, we're talking about 700,000 liters of milk in a day, 145,000 farmers, over 1,500 staffers. Some might say that this is as good as it gets.
Not yet, actually. Edith, when you take your holiday, whenever you do, and take it to Dubai or take it to Singapore, we would like you to be consuming a Brookside product. And we are looking at a Kenyan, wherever they travel, particularly on this continent and in the Middle East, having available a product from Brookside. That's where we want to go.
Okay, and before I let you go, I do have to ask on a lighter note, you know, we're all seeing advertisements of telling us to do milk and stay young. Is that helping people consume more milk?
Absolutely, absolutely. Calcium. You probably wouldn't have the texture on your skin if you weren't a regular consumer of calcium.
I do take
Yes.
quite a bit of milk, actually.
Yes.
You caught
There
me.
you go. There you go. There you go. That's the power of milk.
All right. Thank you
Yes.
so much for coming into
Thank you very
studio this
much.
afternoon. We're
Thank
talking
you.
to John Gethy. He's the general manager of Brookside. And remember, if you want to catch up with this conversation, do join us on Twitter. Our handle is at KTN Kenya. We also have one for KTN Business. You can link up and ask questions, and we'll be sure to get the follow-ups for you. I'm Edith Kimani. Thank you for tuning in. This has been KTN Financial Markets Live. Betty Kialu will be joining you next week. Have yourselves a blessed weekend.